Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday afternoon. I've just completed preparation for your first CAN session, and it is part one of Stroebig and Stead Research Planning, Designing and Reporting. Just to, again, summarize for you give you a brief outline of what we've done so far. I'm not going to go through that again. Our first week, week 11, last evening, we looked at, why should you do reflective practices? I gave you ample number of perspectives with lots of strong words as to why research and a reflective practice should be part of your makeup. We then looked at some reflective teaching practices. I shared my ideas on that. I gave you Kolb and Gibbs's as well. Remember, Kolb and Gibbs is the theoretical underpinning, and it's not just for teaching practice. I didn't say this last night. I'm going to say it now. You can share this with your children too. This is how a child learns to ride a bicycle, by experiential learning by doing. How do I do this, Dad? Get on the bicycle and pump your legs and go. I'll push. Then you let them go, and he falls, and then you get up and you learn, why did he fall? So this applies to all aspects of life, whether you're foundation phase, senior phase, or a lecturer at university. It is about knowing what you're doing right, and knowing what you're doing wrong. And then I gave you two gifts, the conversation and Edutopia, and I hope that you have already got into that a bit and that you have spent some time there. We then now are in part one of our CAN session, and then your final assessment for this module will be on week 14. Obviously, no communication from me at that stage unless you email me directly. And then we will hopefully get some course evaluation from you. Again, no live session. And then the year is done as far as this module is concerned. So I understand that we have a wide range of students on this program. And I know that there are some of you, I believe there's a couple of PhDs sitting in class here. We got a lot of people with masters, honors. So many of you have already done a fair amount of research. But I also know that there are some 20-year-olds here and younger people who have not really had an opportunity to explore this world. So when you encounter a book such as Stroebig and Stead, it's perhaps useful to get some signposting done. They're talking about research, planning. Sorry, I've closed it up there. Planning, designing, and reporting your research. And I want to reiterate that this book works for the Profile 1 teacher that I mentioned last night, and also for the Profile 2 teacher. Whether you just want to engage in reflective practice to improve as a teacher, or whether you want to do proper research to take you to the next level, this book will help you in both of those. I want to share with you some snippets of information to assist you on your journey when you open this book for the first time. So there are a couple of things to note about this book that makes it such an accessible book. Obviously, like any book, has a table of contents, and it gives you an easy reference. And when I say reference, I mean really, in the title, if you're looking for something, you can look in the table of contents. Look, for example, at the concept of validity. Where will you find that? Scanning through the table of contents, you'll find that quite quickly. Obviously, the chapter titles are a giveaway. It's a hint of what is to come. And then at the back of the book, page 280, around about there, there's an index. Purpose of an index is to alphabetically place words and concepts. So if you're looking for empirical research, qualitative research, validity, reliability, if you're looking for these terms and concepts, that will give you where it is alphabetically with all the page references. And you'll see some of them have like 30 page references. It means they come up on a number of occasions. So again, try validity and see where you go. Then we come to a thing called a QR code. I've personally not been too involved with QR codes, but you download the app. There's a QR code image on the bottom of my screen now. I Googled it quickly, and it's really like a barcode in a supermarket. You scan it with your smartphone, you download the app, you scan it, and it opens up the article that you're looking for. Try that in any one of these QR codes that you have in the book, and it's a quick reference. It really is quick. And if you want to work smart, so you use your smartphone, you scan the QR code, you forward the QR code to your laptop. If you're working in a laptop, download the article there, and there you go. You have it in front of you. So that's a very useful thing to do. Each chapter follows a set procedure. This is also important to know that when you get to chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, there is a set procedure. All chapters start with a purpose statement. Purpose statement will just obviously tell you what the purpose of the chapter is. What do the authors want to achieve in this one? You must check that out and see if that's what you want to do. They will then provide you with a number of learning aims. So, that's the outcomes that we talk about. I speak of outcomes, and some people speak of aims, objectives, goals, whatever you want to call them. And then so then they deal with each of them one at a time, one of the outcomes, with an introduction, and then they'll go through the headings, quantitative, qualitative, whatever comes up in that chapter. And what's interesting, and you must always look at little bold bits, is the examples, because very often the explanation is not as clear as when you look at the example, and then it comes out for you. Handy too is the little summary at the end. So if you've been working in a chapter, you just want to get a bit of an overview, there's a summary, and very handy indeed is the fact that they even have some assessment questions. Those of you who are still fans of outcomes-based education, I am, says that you always start with the assessment and you work your way back. So maybe, this is where you start reading. He's going to ask you questions there. So now when he asks you the questions at the end, you then know what to look for when you go to the beginning. It's up on that. Then he gives a group activity, which I think is quite funky. So if you're doing if a group of you are studying together, then there's some suggested reading, always good. And online sources, it's not very often that you get this add-on also, the online sources, because suggested reading is very often a book, which you may or may not be able to get at the library. You're certainly not going to buy it because probably just referring to one aspect of what you're looking for. But the online source is very often open education resources, OERs, which means it's available. I only work with OERs. I only work with online, free-to-use online resources. And well, you will know what section to scan when you get to work in this book. I took a picture of this and added it to my slide because it's interesting. At the start of every chapter, the authors provide you with a sort of a map, and the bold highlighted section is obviously, this is a photograph of chapter 1. If you get to chapter 2 will be highlighted with listing the topics that come in there. But for me, what is interesting is the headings that appear here and the sequential nature of that. So you're starting with introduction to the research practice, then you go to a literature review, reading about, then you start developing your proposal, and you will recall this is what we focused on in week 11 when we had some research ideas. I unpacked that chapter for you also with some areas to go and look. Data collection methods. So now you know what you want to do. How are you going to gather your data? Then procedures. The method is what you're going to do by way of an interview, survey, or whatever. The procedure, the processes is how you're going to go about collecting the data and analyzing it. Sorry, analyzing comes later. Chapter 6 is important: reliability, validity, and rigor. Three very important concepts which you must understand. Then analyzing and interpreting data. This is what Josh spoke about the other evening, creating themes in qualitative data. And then obviously presenting the research project, either by way of an article or at a conference and addressing it to people. Okay, so that gives us a sense of how the book works. I'm guessing there'll be 2 more CAN sessions like this one to give you a bit of a deeper insight into research processes. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the other side of the weekend.